Hey, welcome back to Right on the Edge. I did a reaction the other day about pirate software. And I didn't really know much about the situation or about the guy himself. So I'm going to watch a video by Slop News Network. Um, Seems to be like a pretty accurate channel. And hey, let's see what we can learn about the guy. I don't want to shit on someone I don't know about. You know, like it could just be like my context could have been wrong, so this is actually for my own education, but I hope we can all be educated together. And don't forget to go and send love to Slop News Network. All right, and without further ado, yeah, let's watch this video together, man.
Software due to all the surrounding drama related to Stop Killing Games. This video isn't about the Stop Killing Games drama. I do support the Stop Killing Games initiative, and anyone in the EU currently
Same. I also support this initiative. I've done a lot of research on this one, and this is a great initiative. I mean, dude, I can't. It's just good. It's a good one.
watching this should go and sign if they care about game preservation.
Yeah, all you UK people that I don't know and don't see my channel, do it.
This video is going to be a review of Jason's job history, game dev industry claims, coding ability, and his heartbound and champion of breakfast DRM solutions by me, a developer. I won't be touching on his hacking skills much in this video.
I don't have a lot of knowledge in those things, so I'm hoping to learn more from this guy's experience. Which is a good part of watching videos like this. You tend to learn a lot more.
Since from what I found, all of his DEF CON wins were team efforts, and all of the stories related to hacking are just that, stories. Outside of his word, I generally can't find anything related to it. There isn't anything concrete or of substance in these stories for me to actually analyze and review. If anyone knows where he actually has hacking write-ups or knows the VODs where he actually does something
I've heard that as well. I've seen that in other videos where there's no real claims to back up the fact that he has hacked or did anything like that. But I like this guy. I'm open to being, well, wrong. I'm very open to being wrong.
relate to hacking, let me know and I can do a separate video going through and reviewing it. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start with Jason's LinkedIn job history. So if we look at his LinkedIn, we can see his first recorded job experience is from 2002 to 2009.
He'd probably be way too young at this point to actually have this job, so self-taught. Well, not self-taught. Maybe his father taught him tricks to do this. Uh, I mean, his father is like a great developer, I think. So, yeah, let's just say maybe family taught.
Where he was a freelance security researcher and developer. In 2002, Jason would have been 15, and from what I found, he hasn't taken any program classes, so anything he knows at this point is largely self-taught.
Just bring up his dad. You know, you might have thought taking programming classes, but with a dad like that, I'm sure you could learn. I'm willing to accept that.
Another important thing is Jason actually had a job in 2004 that isn't listed here as a quality assurance intern at Blizzard.
I went to Blizzard in 2004, and this is kind of my whole career, right? My first job I got through nepotism, 100%. My dad worked at Blizzard for 23 years. He worked at
That's kind of like that's an undersell, I think. His dad was a major part of developing Blizzard. But this guy will probably get into it.
Blizzard for 23 years, so I got a job there in 2004. I was shit. I was shit at this, and I realized I was shit.
Also, I think it's important that we talk about his dad for a second. Jason says his dad just worked at Blizzard, but that's grossly understating his dad's role and history at Blizzard. Jason's dad is
He kind of looks like Kenny G in this photo. Good photo.
Joey Ray Hall, and from a Reddit AMA his dad held, we can see the following. Joey Ray joined Silicon and Synapses in 1991. Now, you might be asking what's Silicon and Synapses and what does this have to do with Blizzard in his post? Well, in 1991, Blizzard didn't exist yet. Silicon and Synapses was the original company name, and 1991 was the year it was founded. Joey Ray joined Blizzard before it was Blizzard, and when he joined, there were less
Silicon and Synapses is a good name, but it's probably a little bit too highbrow for a lot of people.
than 10 people in total at the company. He wasn't some random Blizzard employee. He was one of the earliest hires at the company. Over his 23 years, he did all sorts of work and was the one that founded the cinematic team, led the machinima team, the video and post-production team, and the esports live broadcast.
That's crazy. That's impressive. I'm just gonna say that's impressive. That resume is crazy. Machinima at the top of his game was unbelievably big.
Team, plus being responsible for all the video content for every BlizzCon between 2005 to 2014. Plus, he led the team that made the famous
He would have told him. He would have told him. Oh yeah, he's the guy I make love not work around.
South Park World of Warcraft episode, and the inspiration for the He Who Has No Life character. Joey Ray was the director of cinematics at Blizzard. He wasn't some low-level employee that worked at the company. He was pretty high up in the chain. Anyways, back to Jason.
I'm gonna say it. Yeah, writing your dad off as somebody that just worked there when he's this guy. This guy disrespectful, man.
The next 5 years, I left Blizzard. I did not reapply, and I went and worked on my own. I did freelance. I did freelance for everything. So I actually went into Second Life, which is a 3D Worlds game, if you've never played it before. They have a language in it called Linden Scripting Language, and I made games in there. I learned how to do 3D modeling. I learned how to do texture work. I learned how to do scripting. I learned how to engage with people that were playing my games. I learned how to do network model stuff. I learned how to do server-related stuff. I did this for 5 whole years.
So Jason's Second Life period of time is a huge rabbit hole, and there's like 5 or 6 different controversies surrounding his time in Second Life. This video is
Wow, that's crazy, man. I literally know nothing about this guy except for the fact that he wanted to do stop killing games for bullshit reasons.
about his controversies and allegations, so I'm going to skip over most of it. The only small parts we care about are related to coding. During his
Fair.
Second Life playing time, he played a character known as Moldavia's Fig Tree and started a company called Dark Sphere Creations. He claims he did game program with the Linden scripting language, the programming language of Second Life, and made some small games and some user-generated content for Second Life. While digging into this, I didn't find any proof he coded any games. What Dark Sphere Creations and his company was actually doing at the time was creating not safe for work adult furry avatars and selling them. Basically, his friend Wingless Emote, another Second Life player, would do the art and modeling for the furry avatars, and Jason would do some coding on top. What kind of coding he did on top of these avatars isn't exactly clear. Then they would sell the avatars, and eventually the business was making somewhere around $10,000 a month, primarily due to selling these avatars. That's
not a lot. I mean, no, sorry. That's not a number. You can be proud of those numbers. That's what I'm trying to say. That's actually not bad. Maybe you should have stuck to selling furry porn. You know, you probably make more money too. But you got what I'm saying. Maybe you should have just done that. You know what I mean? Oh my god, it's so crazy.
some other controversy where it alludes to Jason trying to do dev work on Linden Labs projects and other game worlds, but I can't find any solid proof, just random posts and accusations. So in summary, there doesn't seem to be any proof he did any kind of game development or hacking during this period of time. Let's get back.
Fair. I mean, it's possible he did it. There's no link back to him. He was too busy making furry.
To Jason.
Then I came back to Blizzard in 2009 and I applied, not having his help in any way. I got the job.
Okay, the timeline here starts matching up with his LinkedIn. After his little detour with Dark Sphere Creations and working for himself, Jason now has an actual full-time job at Blizzard in 2009. This is his first official full-time job at Blizzard, and he is once again a quality assurance analyst. Jason claims he got into the company on his own merits this time, but I find that a bit hard to believe at face value. In 2004, he said he was terrible at his QA role, and that's why he quit. I searched to see if he studied anything
Yeah. Not likely.
IT related in high school or in college or during the time gap, and I found this from his subreddit. Jason did spend some time in college studying to be an entomologist with a specialization in ants. He dropped out of college without ever finishing his studies, and it doesn't seem like he ever took any IT related courses during this time here. During that
Yeah. So that's crazy. It's lining up, but it's not lining up. Like
5-year gap between 2004 and 2009. The only experience he said in the clip from earlier was his Second Life programming, and well, that wasn't exactly quality assurance.
Yeah, it doesn't look that good. But you know what? You build skills when you're running your own thing that you wouldn't suspect you build. So I'm willing to put a pass on this one. But it seems to be a pattern of lying.
Or hacking or game development work. Plus, while applying in 2009, on his resume, he would probably have had, or Blizzard itself would have had a record he worked there previously as a QA. So that would make applying a second time for a similar position easier. His dad, once again, was a pretty high person in the company.
His dad could have got him in, even if he didn't know it, right? It's one of those things where it's like, oh, I got in on my own merits. It's like, probably not. The manager knows your dad. Honestly, probably.
and some people might remember Jason being Joey Ray's son from before. It's not impossible he got in on his own merits, just a bit hard to believe considering he doesn't have experience with any real program languages at this point, and he doesn't have any degrees or certificates. Okay, back to his LinkedIn and his job. So he held the role for 3 years and 2 months, and once again, this was his quality assurance role. One thing Jason often does is he claims all QA are developers. First, as someone that has worked QA myself, this isn't true. I'm not saying QA aren't important, but the majority of QA generally are non-technical and only a small portion are. At most of the places I worked at, QA generally has no coding ability and are tasked with doing manual regression testing. Basically, they get a series of test cases they need to go through, and each test case has a written out set of instructions they just follow. If something doesn't match the case steps, then a bug is filed and actual developers are tasked with addressing it. So I personally wouldn't call his
that's I've had experience on this side of thing doing game testing and stuff like that, and that lines up. They usually give you like a thing of like a list of things to check for.
3 years at this position, game development experience. And if we look at the bullet points he has on his LinkedIn, besides one line, namely the design and create an automated system, there's nothing here that even remotely implies he was coding or doing any kind of development. I'm making this point since Jason often claims he was a game developer at Blizzard for 7 years, but his first 3.5 years didn't include any developer roles.
He like never talks about this, so I'm surprised he can find so many screenshots.
Also, to address his if QA didn't do their jobs, games wouldn't be released argument, most games have music. If a musician doesn't complete the OST, a game can't be released. Does that mean they're now developers too? Just because you say something confidently in a deep voice doesn't make it true. Moving on to his next role, we have quality assurance hacks. Here he mentions he did some forensic analysis and detected threats. Also, something I'd like to note, all of his game projects listed here were coded using primarily the C++ programming language. This is a low-level programming language. This will be important a bit later in the video. As for the role, again,
low level for C++ when it's like the foundations of everything. I'm not sure how that works, but in my understanding, C++ is like the foundation of everything, so I don't know how low level that is.
I wouldn't call this game development experience. This is more related to security work than game development itself. And from the bullet points, it doesn't seem like Jason was doing much coding. His next role for 6 months was test engineer. My opinions are pretty much the same as the previous role he held. Moving on, we have the next role as security engineer for 11 months. This one is interesting. Since the bullet points here notes he managed web application security. For those that don't know what web applications are, it means he was working on websites and not games. There's no mention of programming here or what tools and languages he used. But regardless, this is without a doubt a non-game development role and doesn't have any overlap with game development. Okay, next up he moves to another security engineer role for 3 months. Again, same opinions as his last job.
Yeah, it's just kind of building on the skills that he had before then. Without none of these jobs would, to me, look like they required programming.
Now, his last role at Blizzard was a red team member. Red team is a common IT term that just means someone inside the company that attempts to hack into their systems, either digital or physical. So red hats basically try to make hacks and show how they got access. So these vulnerabilities and issues can be addressed before real hackers can abuse them. Now, while red hat is offensive security and hacking, it doesn't always mean you're programming like you see with those green terminals and pics. If we look at the bullet points Jason has listed, we can see he did exploiting physical access controls and social engineering operations. Social engineering is actually one of the most common ways hackers gain access to systems, and it doesn't have to involve any programming at all. Social engineering attacks are something like the following situation. Let's say Jason in this example is a social engineer and his target is a fellow Blizzard employee with access to the game servers. He could call them or email them from a legitimate Blizzard phone number or email and say he needs their account credentials. Normally, you would never share live in production account credentials, even if someone from your own company. But let's say Jason manages to convince the employee to hand the credentials over. Now Jason has a way to log into the system he shouldn't have access to. This is a social engineering attack.
Yeah, it's also the most successful of hacks, from what I know.
It's not technical hacking like most people think of. It's generally just being convincing enough and getting employees to hand over info or access they shouldn't be giving out. All right, with all of that, and with all those jobs, we have 6 years and 6 months at Blizzard full-time for Jason. And if we include his time as a QA intern in 2004, we basically have his 7 years of experience at Blizzard accounted for. Judging by everything he has written here, it seems as though he's never held an actual game developer position and he's never done any game development directly. All of his roles at Blizzard were either QA, website security, or social engineering.
Yeah, but most people don't know this, right? Without like insider knowledge like you have, they would just assume that, who knows what this is. It could be.
Basically is hacking. It doesn't seem like he's ever touched C++, which is the industry standard language to use when doing game development. But before I finish my thoughts on this, let's check out one more job after Blizzard. After Blizzard, Jason worked at Amazon Games for 8 months as an automation engineer. Again, he wasn't a game developer here. He also didn't include much information under his bullet points. He did documentation of vulnerabilities and did some automation work with Python. This is the first officially recorded line that actually shows he did some programming. Python is what we call a high-level language, meaning the language is designed to be easy for humans to read and understand.
Oh, good. I'm glad you explained that. Yeah, because I was like, what's the difference between low level and high level one? I was thinking like hard versus not hard.
As well as to write. Python is a wonderful language, and I'm not throwing any shade at it, but Python is not a language used to create games. Technically, yes, you can code games in Python. Big drawback is it's an incredibly slow language. This is why the industry standard language for game development is C++, a low-level language that allows for incredible performance. The trade-off
That's what I've heard.
Is it's a significantly more difficult language to work with. The reason I went through his job history so far and his programming language list is because Jason often claims he's a 20-year veteran of the game dev industry, and he was a game developer at Blizzard for 7 years. And he uses these claims to make himself seem like an authority and expert on game development.
Yeah, he uses that authority also to try to it's an appealed authority when his arguments are. It's like his arguments are generally, from what I've seen, an appeal to authority. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, except for when you have no authority.
And game related.
Or when you use it to discredit people with like a credible complaint or something, as if they're stupid.
Topics, namely stop killing games. But from the looks of it, and in my opinion, it doesn't seem to me he's ever worked as an actual game developer within the industry, and it doesn't seem like he's ever done much program work in the industry either. I'm not throwing shade at any of the jobs listed here so far. I'm just trying to be absolutely clear that none of this, in my opinion, as someone that has worked on game engines and done game development, none of this counts as game development experience, with a lot of his roles having...
I mean, every time I learn something new about this guy, he just seems like a piece of shit. But, hey, man. Nepo babies, am I right?
Absolutely nothing to do with game development itself at all. To help make this clear, here's another example to help everyone understand. It's like someone working at a hospital and doing payroll work, but because they're at a hospital, they claim to be a qualified doctor. It doesn't make any sense. Jason is making a giant leap with his "I'm a game developer for 7 years" at Blizzard claims. Anyways, let's go back to his LinkedIn and see what's next. Here we have that he was a cybersecurity specialist at Eagle Research Group. Based on Jason's stories, this should be when and where he was technically working for the government. There isn't a whole lot of information here, and with most of the bullet points being extreme.
It could be working for the government. To be fair, it could just be like, this company, Eagle Research Group, is probably contracted by the government.
Generic. Since he claims this was government-related work, I think it's perfectly reasonable to assume he has NDAs, or he might not be able to give any specifics related to his work here.
And then when I did that, I went to the United States Department of Energy and I hacked power plants for the federal government.
Jason makes a lot of claims being a hacker and has told a lot of stories, but I could never find anything to back up his hacking claims. So far, the only thing I found was he did do some social engineering attacks at Blizzard. Now, some of you might know about his DEF CON stories and his Mr. Robot claims. I'll probably cover those in a separate video. The reason is all of his DEF CON wins were done in teams of 10 people, never solo. And for his other hacking claims, there's only stories to go off of. To keep this video from being too long and off topic, I'll save his hacking claims for its own thing. Okay, his next set of experience is at his own company, also named Pirate Software. But before we touch on that, let's talk about his more recent job experience at Off-Brand Games first, since that's a smaller topic to cover. Off-Brand Games is a game publishing company founded by Ludwig and Jason. I'm not entirely sure if Jason is a co-founder or not. Jason claims he isn't, but most posts and Ludwig's posts talking about the company seem to imply he is. Whether or not he's a co-founder isn't too important. Jason's role at the company is director of strategy. From Jason's comments on the matter, he basically helps indie game developers negotiate contracts. Again, no direct game development work here. Also, fun fact, the very first game Off-Brand Games was co-publishing was Rivals of Ether 2. A game by the developer's own words was built this time around as a more live service game. Really makes you think why he might not want Stop Killing Games to succeed.
Hey, possible, man.
Also, don't throw any hate at Rivals of Ether 2. They actually do have an end-of-life plan to keep the game playable and alive for the community after.
Hey, you know what? That's good. That's quality.
After it ends. The same goes for the rest of the off-brand published games. Don't throw them any hate. Okay, we're going to take just one more detour before we get to the Pirate Software Company. Let's check out Jason's GitHub and see if there's any code for us to review there. For those of you that don't know what GitHub is, it's basically the site where developers store their code bases and development teams can work together on a code base. In Jason's case, his code bases would be tied to his games. Okay, so here's Jason's GitHub account. And and he has 0 public projects on his account, and 0 activity for the year of 2025. Okay, the no public repos doesn't exactly prove anything, and you don't need to have public repos, but most active developers do have something at least. Also, let me point out, GitHub does have an option of having private repos, which are code bases not viewable by users not part of the team. But GitHub also has the option to show activity on private repos on your profile without leaking any private repo data. Again, this doesn't prove anything, but it's incredibly
If this is an industry standard thing, then I would just imagine most people have it that are programmers.
odd to see a self-proclaimed developer and hacker have 0 public code on his GitHub and 0 activity on his account. Let's try 2024, and there's nothing. Okay, 2023, oh, I see some activity, and it's bug reports. He has made 4 bug reports and some feature requests, 0 coding to review for 2023. Okay, let's try 2022. All right, I see 2 green dots. And again, it's 2 bug reports, no code to check over. All right, 2021, I'm feeling lucky, and there's nothing. Okay, 2020, he's applying to be a part of the live coders list. All right, last year to check, 2019.
Yeah, it doesn't look like much there, huh, guys? Yep.
And his only activity is he joined January 13, 2019. Man, that was disappointing. Over 7 years of having a GitHub account, he seems to have done 0 public coding, with a grand total of 6 bug reports. Again, this doesn't prove anything too much, but most professional developers and hackers generally have something on their accounts, even if it's just super minor stuff like their settings for their favorite text editor or application. Jason could have a separate personal account where he does all his work, but the entire thing is just incredibly strange and unusual. Just about
If you're working in this industry, right, you want to keep the line open for future work. So you'd want to have something on there to prove that you're working, I would imagine.
every tech YouTuber and streamer has a GitHub account with some random projects scattered around. Anyways, finally with all those positions and GitHub stuff out of the way, let's finally get to Pirate Software, the company, and Jason's actual game development start. Let's take a look at his game dev skills.
Hey, let's go. That's what we've been waiting for, actual development stuff.
His game dev execution. With all his bragging, I'm sure this is going to be an incredible story with no issues at all. All right, so his first game his studio published was a game called Champions of Breakfast. This was a game roughly built in 8 months in the Game Maker engine. This was the first game that Jason claimed had the unpiratable DRM, where basically the game's Steam achievements acted as a save file. I'll touch on all these points again in just a bit, keep them in mind, while I move to his next and only other game, Heartbound. So Heartbound is the big game Pirate Software is known for, and it has a crazy development history. So according to the wiki, Heartbound's first build was October 7th, 2015. Again, this game was also made in GameMaker. It's a 2D game that's mostly story-driven with extreme similarities to Undertale, and is supposed to have 5 acts or chapters in total.
It's okay to have imitation. Like look at Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley started as a remake of I just completely blanked on the name. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'll think about that name in a bit. But Harvest Moon, I believe. Yeah.
A Kickstarter for the game was launched on February 24th, 2017, roughly a year and a half after work originally started on it. The original goal was to have the game finished and released by December 2017, but shortly after the launch, it was claimed the game was to be fully complete and released in early to mid 2018. A few months later, the goal was once again changed and now was targeting early access on Steam in December 2018. The game did land on Steam in December of 2018. In early access, this release contained a Chapter 1 that was complete, with a basically near fully done Chapter 2. Gee, I hope this doesn't become a trend with delays, failed promises, and shifts in goals. Surely Jason will complete this game in a few more
Surely.
years, right? At the very start of January 2019, they released a patch where in the patch notes it said Animus, the name of Chapter 3, was being developed. And this is where everything started truly going to hell. Now, we have a few things we should note here. This is technically the 3rd year of development if we're going off the October 2015 first build date. If we compare this to Undertale, Undertale completed development in 2 years, 7 months, with Toby Fox doing most of the development solo, with some help from Tammy Chang on art. Also, let's just take a quick look at the How Long to Beat site and see how much content Undertale has. Okay, the main story is 7 hours. With side content, it's roughly 11 hours. A completionist run is 20.5 hours. Okay, pretty good and respectable times for an indie game.
Yeah, that's quality. I mean, for the price too.
Built in 2 years, 7 months. Heartbound as of 2025 is still in active development. So let's take a look at how much content time they have. All right, the main story is 2.5 hours. With side content, it's 3 hours, and a completionist run is 3.5 hours. The Pirate Software team has been working on this game for 10 years, currently more than 3 times as long as the Undertale team, and the Pirate Software team has 1 additional team member. Yeah, just think about that for a moment. Anyways, let's start diving through 2019 and Chapter 3 Animus development. For most of 2019, it seems like there was steady progress on Chapter 3 with various patches over the year, so far saying additional content was added. On October 2019, Jason tweeted that roughly 86% of Chapter 3 has now been completed. Then 2 years later, Jason tweets that Chapter 3 is now 92% done. So over 2 years, he made 8% progress on one chapter. 20 years of game dev industry experience, people, and 7 years working at Blizzard.
He blames it on COVID, so. But it's 2025 now. What?
Okay, let's rewind and go back to 2020 and see the Twitch statistics and see what was happening. Okay, the start of 2020 up till March seems like a normal stream schedule. Seems like he caught a cold on March 10th. Then after 9 days, he goes to urgent care and is diagnosed with pneumonia and gets a COVID test. Then we move to March 21st and COVID test results come back and it's negative. No COVID, just pneumonia. Wait, never mind. March 24th, Jason goes back to urgent care. Pneumonia was incorrectly diagnosed and he actually has severe bronchitis. All right, March 30th, he's still sick, but once again confirms negative for COVID. This is really important. All right, a few days later, April 10th, and his cold status is defeated and we're good to go. I know I'm being semi-joking in this section, but I generally don't wish Jason any health issues. All right, so then we move.
I mean, yeah, you could wish him no health issues and still be like, what the fuck, bro?
Move on to April 11th, 2020, and work on Heartbound has restarted. Work is continuing over the next few days. According to tweets, most of April was good, so was most of May 2020. We're still working on Heartbound at this point. Again, nearly all of the May prog is on Heartbound. Then we skip all the way over to July 2020, and work on Heartbound is still progressing. Seemed like there's some trouble during September, October, and November, with December being fine, and so is January of
At least they're working. Just slowly.
2021.
You know, it makes me wonder if they have like a writer's block or something.
Being fine. Then we hit February 2021, and then he tweets out he has had COVID for 9 months since the start of February of 2020. Wait, what? Jason was only sick in March according to his own tweets at that time period. And there's work from February from earlier. And there's proof he worked during April, May, June, July, and August at the very least, judging by his Twitch stats and his Steam announcements and patches for the game. It seems the only major slowdown of streams and work was
Come on, man. You don't have to lie like that.
3 months of September, October, and November. Where he lost 9 months of time and had to stop development based on his tweets, I have no idea. I mean, it's not like he's going to change his story after this, right? Oh wait, there's this old tweet from November 2020 where Jason says he was recovering for nearly 8 months and couldn't daily stream or work. Let's look at the Twitch stats graph again and his tweets. He couldn't work during this period, but everything he posts during this time says he was working on Heartbound, and his Twitch stats confirm it. So does Steam. I mean, Jason wouldn't lie and change his story and opinions randomly.
Or would he?
Right? Especially not his loyal viewers and Heartbound fans. Let's skim the graphs and see what else.
The thing is, man, I kind of like the art for it and stuff like that, but yeah, after all this shit, I don't think I could trust this to be a good game.
We can see. Okay, 2021 minus the months of March, April, May, and June.
And the other thing is, if he's busy Twitch streaming and that's what he wants to do, why doesn't he just hire someone else to do it? It's probably an ego thing.
June, his streaming is extremely good and consistent, with tons of stream days going past 10 hours and some days hitting 16 hours. 2020, about the same for March, April, May, and June, and September, with the rest of the months being slightly less consistent, but still more consistent than not. Then we get to 2023, and this is incredibly consistent with the stream averages being 6 to 8 hours per day. Let's start diving back into Jason's tweets. So on June 2023, he catches COVID again. Okay, that seems to match up with his...
And the thing is, right, like COVID and everything makes sense. Like all that stuff makes sense. But hey, thanks for watching this with me. I'm gonna leave a link, of course, as always, below. Thanks for being here, and yeah, dude, I'm glad I learned more about this guy, but I'm disheartened that almost none of it was good. All right, hey, have a good one, guys.